I have been having so much fun over the last day and a half because not only am I getting to visit with students, fellow students that I've known, but I'm meeting so many amazing people. And one that I've been looking forward to meeting, I've heard so many wonderful things about, is Bobbi Asarch. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I've been asking everyone to talk about how they came into contact with Torch. And you have a very rich history, pre-Wolbe era.
Pre-Wolbe, that goes back a long time.
So share with us.
Sure. My husband, Tom, and my son, Scott, started studying with Rabbi Polachek, who in the day, right now is, in the private sector, but he began as a torch rabbi. And Tom and Scott studied weekly with him for a long time, and it branched out from there. They've had us for dinner, and we sort of got involved and more involved, and still at it today, studying with both brothers, my Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe and his brother Yaakov, who has enriched my life tremendously with his free podcasts. I know that's why we're here today, because we want to raise funds to keep these boys working for us.
Exactly.
And that's what they're doing. They're teaching us and working for us, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But they have definitely enriched our lives, and actually our son, Scott Asarch, is now living in Israel, and it all started way back when with Rabbi Polachek.
Wow.
So, yes, we have a history.
I keep hearing these stories of just these moments in time when people come into contact with this organization, the rabbis, and their life was going in one direction, and they saw that it totally took a different direction for the positive.
Yeah, it was a long journey for our son, because he's a Baal Tshuva, and he just kept studying more and more and more, and realized that his destiny was to go to Israel. So
wonderful.
We have a lot of respect and appreciation for Torch, because they give so much of themselves unconditionally.
Right.
Non-judgmental.
Yes.
So,
those are the words we keep hearing over and over again.
Right.
Non-judgmental. We just want to teach.
Right.
Yeah. So when was the first time you met Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe?
It just sort of happened. I can't remember exactly what happened and when, but when we first started with Torch, the women's group, Ascent, was trying to get that off the ground, and that's how I really got to know the Polacheks. And then later on, the Wolbes came to town, and little by little and class by class, going to his classes, Aryeh's classes, we kept being invited over for dinner, and
the famous Shabbos dinners
and all the holidays. And so I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but I'm glad it happened, because we have a wonderful relationship, and they're like family.
Yes. That's another common theme.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure.
But you've been continuing your learning with the Torch organization this entire time now.
It's been a long time. I'd say at least 15 years.
Wow.
And we were actually, Tom and I were award recipients way back when. And it was such a wonderful event. And I'm trying to remember if Rabbi Wolbe was, I think he was there then. You were there, right? And so it just continues to grow and grow, and the learning is just beyond. And especially, they've done so much for us during the Zoom, having to Zoom with COVID, and very appreciative for all that they do, and all the hours, endless hours of programming, and the podcasts. I never even knew what a podcast was. Now I never go out. I'm always listening to the podcasts, and it's just wonderful.
You know,
I didn't realize I was so uneducated. And I say to them all the time, hurry up and teach me. At my age, I got to learn fast. I have to run as fast as I can.
You know, everyone I brought on has very different backgrounds. And we were talking beforehand, before we went live, was that you've always been very involved in the Jewish community, but there was something that Torch brought to the table. You were mentioning to me, and that was just the depth of the learning.
Exactly. And there's no age limit, no judgment, or looking at you funny if you don't know this word or that word. It's just, I've got something to say, I've got something to teach, and if you want to listen, I'm here for you. And that's what Torch is about. And I wish everybody knew about it and would just give it a shot, because it's amazing. Amazing. No, they're asking for nothing in return. And that's why this fundraising is important. We have to give so that they can afford to stay in business, you know?
And not put any type of obligation on anyone financially to learn, so they can teach to everyone.
Exactly. You know, I was saying the other day, if I added up all the hours and all the minutes and hours and weeks and days that I listen and go to classes, and I would owe them a lot. I owe them a lot as it is, but you know, I mean, it's just because if you go to classes at Rice or the Women's Institute, there are many places of learning in Houston, but this, all you have to do is say, hey, I'd like to join up. I'd like to come to a class, you know, and you're invited. Right. No questions asked.
Exactly. And they teach at our level, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And I tell them also, I'm a slow learner. So the podcasts, I have to repeat and repeat, because I forget how many years did we leave this? how many, what, when, where, you know, but it's wonderful.
That is the nice thing about the podcast. I do that too. I have to rewind and listen to something again.
Hi, Kenny.
So you took a trip.
Yes, I want to tell you about it.
Yes, let's hear about that.
A year ago, right now, last month, Sandra Finkelman, Becky Bovine, and myself went with Zahava Walby on a trip. It was an Aish trip, Aish HaTorah, and we met up with women all over the United States. And I was one of the oldest, I'm proud to say, but I certainly could keep up with most of those women. I want you to know that.
Yes.
And it was an amazing experience. The people, our speakers were basically the rabbis from Aish HaTorah.
Right.
And by the way, they have prime property. They are right. You see where I'm standing?
Yeah, right there.
There was where their building is. Right there.
That's outside their.
See up there. That's from the balcony of Aish.
Right. It's amazing.
And oh my gosh, it was a trip of a lifetime. I must add, at the same time we landed in Israel on February 3rd, 2020, our son Scott landed. He had gone to Toronto for the weekend, and then his Aliyah flight on El Al landed in Israel 1 hour before us. So he was there by the mezuzah, you know, waiting for us to come through security. Yeah, it was magnificent. But we just had a wonderful experience. They took us places that I'd never been to, and I thought I did jot down a few of the places.
Share it. I want to hear about
it was just amazing. We went to the cave of Machpelah, which I had never been to, which is where our ancestors our patriarchs and matriarchs are buried.
Right.
And we went to the ancient Shiloh, and I saw there's this building, and I can't remember where it was, but it's a hologram of the Mishkan.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because in this week's Torah portion, how do you say? Kesis Kisisa.
Yes,
This week's Torah portion is all about making the Mishkan,
right.
the building of the Mishkan. And we saw this hologram. It's just phenomenal in this beautiful building. Anyway, that was one of the highlights. We went to Rachel's tomb. I had never been there. So I thought that was kind of a terrific thing. And the same trip, we were able to hear a lot of the rabbis that teach at Aish HaTorah,
including Rabbi Wolbe's rabbi.
And we I have a picture with him, but I don't think we could find it. But Rabbi Berkowitz, who is like the headmaster, he is the Rebbe, he is the Rav.
Right.
And because of Rabbi Wolbe, Zahava, Sandra, Becky, and I had about a 10-minute audience with him. And when I talk about it, I start to cry. He was the most amazing man. You could feel something magical with this man.
I heard you could just feel like holiness.
I mean, you can't even believe it. His eyes were like glowing. He was, of course, I think he was just overwhelmed by the beauty of the women.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. But I did tell him he raised a wonderful rabbi. I told him that Rabbi Wolbe, that I wanted him to know that we appreciated that he raised such a fine rabbi for us.
Yes.
So that was a highlight of the trip. But one of the classes were amazing. The rabbis that talked to us were amazing. My favorite was the hidden genius of the Torah, the codes of the Torah. I was fascinated by that.
Yeah.
But if you women out there, I would love for everybody to be able to go with Zahava and maybe one day Chaya Wabi and maybe Mrs. Bosco, whoever leads the trip. It's a wonderful experience. I highly recommend it. And it is subsidized by Aish.
Yeah.
It's a very nominal cost. And I think people need to know that they work hard to bring all of us to Israel and educate us. It's wonderful.
So did Aish provide the guides when you were out touring, or was that Zahava acting as? No,
they had it all organized through Aish HaTorah. It actually, it's a yeshiva.
Right.
And, but it's just amazing. I didn't have any idea when I walked into the building. Hanging from the ceiling is this gorgeous Chihuly glass.
Okay.
It's just phenomenal. And several floors, but you walk out on the terrace of the top floor and you are looking down at the Kotel.
Yeah.
So anyway, I would wish that everybody would have that opportunity.
Thank you for bringing that up. So it's one of the things we haven't touched on is the fact that Torch organizes these trips regularly to Israel until last year when it became hard to fly into Israel.
Well, I'm going to go again, God willing. It was wonderful.
Right. Well, I think definitely once the airports start to open up again, we need to do that again. And it's good that you're sharing that with everyone. Those are interested, let us know, because we're happy to coordinate that again.
It's wonderful. And they're small. And this was a large group, but we were in buses. So you were kind of in your own little group so that you weren't with the whole group, which is close to 200 women, transporting all those women from place to place. It's great. It was great.
Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners? Because we are now at just creeped over $474,000. So we're getting close to our $500,000 target to fund the budget for this year. Any other thing you could share with the audience about why this is a remarkable organization to support for what it does for the Jewish people?
Well, I also think it's worth mentioning that this fundraiser, if you give $50, it's $150. Somebody is tripling it. So to that benefactor, we say thank you so much. I would encourage anybody to look into this organization for several reasons. There's no pressure. They're not judging where you came from, the car you drive, who you're friends with. They just want to teach you. And it's a very worthwhile, and it's just hard to express how important it is that we keep it alive.
Yes.
That's the thing I hope that everybody understands. It's through this fundraiser is once a year. They don't ask for money during the year. classes, there's a fee for some of the classes, very nominal, but they work on this once a year fundraiser. And the appreciation that I have for everybody that works for this organization, and their generosity, giving the most precious thing of all is your time. You can never buy back your time, and they give so much to us. Please consider it in giving this year. It's important.
Thank you.
This pays their salaries and keeps Amy in the office,
keeps these lights on, the cameras rolling.
Right, in this beautiful space. And we hope we'll be back in the space soon. But Torch has Zoomed everything, and you can always watch the past programs and the podcast anytime.
Yeah.
So,
and besides the request for people to support the organization, it's also, I've been wanting to convey too, what's available to you and what's available to other Jews you may know that may have never had the opportunity to have these experiences, the trips to Israel, the Shabbos dinners, the Torah learning. I mean, share this with people, because again, Jews are thirsty for deep wisdom of Torah, and a lot of them just have never had the opportunity to be exposed to it.
And they don't know where to go for it.
Exactly. But now they do.
But now you do. So I hope to see you in a class.
Thank you so much, Bobbi.
This was a pleasure.
Total joy. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.